So we've basically finished chapter 9, the long chapter, and this will suck you in. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. And before, let's see. Um, let's see. How does 9 end here? Like the. Okay, so here's how 9 ends. I'll kind of read the ending of 9. That you and I are already completely forgotten on the earth. What is that? Exclaimed the ghost, disengaging its arm. Do you mean those damn neo-regionalists have won after all? Lord love you, yes, said the spirit, once more shaking and shining with laughter. You can't even get £5 for any picture of mine or even yours in Europe or America today. We're all dead out of fashion. And then the ghost kind of goes out in a rage and is like, well, we gotta start a periodical and get all that done. And then it kind of switches and it goes, this conversation was also we overheard. That is quite out of the question, said a female ghost to one of the bright women. I should not dream of staying if I'm expected to meet Robert. I'm ready to forgive him, of course, but anything more, it is quite impossible. How he comes to be here, but that is your affair. But if you have forgiven him, said the other surely. And then this is one of my quotes here. I forgive him as a Christian, said the ghost, but there are some things one can never forget. like that's
Yeah,
yeah.
I really didn't do it.
Yeah. Like that's like I and I love that the way it was put where like I forgave him as a Christian. Like and that really struck me as like I think sometimes we label things with the Christian as like Christian duty type of thing. It's like I got to do this because I have to do it, or or I'm going to the bad place or something like that. Like that's like I think sometimes all this kind of gets labeled as that, and I think that's kind of what I thought as we were reading this. And this ghost is kind of fascinating. I don't want to read everything. She starts accusing her husband of having ingratitude. It was I that made a man of him. I sacrificed my whole life to him. And I just turn the page. And what is my reward? Absolute utter selfishness. No, but listen, he was pottering along for about 600 a year when I married him. And mark my words, Hilda, he'd have been in that position to the day of his death if it hadn't been for me. It was I that drove him every step of the way. He didn't have any spark of ambition, right? And that's, let's see, we'll continue going down. I positively had to nag him to take on that extra work in another department, though it was really the beginning of everything for him. The laziness of men, he said, if you please. He couldn't work more than 13 hours a day. That's as if I weren't working for longer. My day's work wasn't over when his was, and she just she talks about making dinner and brightening him up, making him brighten up and to make conversation. That of course there was no help from him with all his conversations. Let's see. He seemed to have forgotten that I was a lady, even if I had married him. And all the time I was working my fingers to the bone for him without the slightest appreciation. I used to spend simply hours arranging flowers to make the poky little house nice. Instead of thanking me, what do you think he said? He said I wished I wouldn't fill up his writing desk with them when he wanted to use it. And there was perfectly frightful fuss one evening because I spilled one of the vases over on some papers of his. If was all nonsense really, because they weren't anything to do with his work. He had some silly idea of writing a book in those days, as if he could. I cured him of that in the end.
No.
I don't know. Like this one. Like it is really not like this nagging sense of needing to better somebody. You know,
Well, it's control.
it's control. Yeah.
The helicopter mom.
Yeah.
Pushing it off on the spouse.
Mm-hmm.
He's allowing her to shine, really.
Yeah, and that's and like just that, yeah, like the helicopter thing and like this that wanting of control, like that's a it's a frightful thing.
Yeah.
I also really compare that desire to control to organizations too. Like when all you want to do, organizations or groups of people, is just sit there and control them. That it's at the end you end up just pushing people away, type of thing. And I see that. I'll complain about the LCMS here for a little bit. Our Lutheran Church Missouri Synod, like, because that's something that ever since there was something that happened in the late '60s, early '70s that we called the walkout. We called Simonex is the other time. Have you guys ever heard of that before? Simonex, you have?
Yeah, I think so.
It is my little opinion that if the LCMS would like to continue growing and moving forward and all that stuff, they need to repent of the sin of this. But the official line is that it was the last great marker of righteousness in the LCMS. What happened is that they kicked all the people they disagreed with out of the seminaries, which they would call like the liberals and all that stuff. But they basically kicked them all out and like purified everything. And that still is today. I remember I was in one of the big youth gatherings in New Orleans a few years back, and CPH, our in-house publishing company, Concordia Publishing House, had this big booth and they're selling things, and they were selling like music CDs, like from Christian artists and all that, and they all had labels on them that said these have not gone through doctrinal review.
Yeah.
And I looked at that and I went, what, is that sticker necessary? Like that's, is this like, do we not have enough faith in people? And that kind of reminds me of this lady with her husband, where it's just that, like what Carol said, it's that desire for control.
And it's not, and it's said to be for that other person's sake, but it's not at all for that person's sake. It's for their own sake.
Yeah.
Elevate them.
Yeah. And that's something that I really struggle with. And, and I talk, I talk a lot about HOAs. I use HOAs as a veiled language to also speak about churches. But that's we see that oftentimes people will get on their high horses.
Oh, yeah.
And they will cause other people's lives to be a hell on earth.
Oh, yeah.
And it usually comes down to control. And that's the difficult thing. Because sometimes you got to deal with stuff. Like that's my friend Mark had to deal with some stuff this last year. People were being very very antagonistic around the whole mask thing, and I kept saying to him, it's probably good he didn't follow my advice, but I was like, you need to let these people know that if they keep this up, they're going to be trespassing, and that's because they would just wanted to make his life difficult, for something small. So the so like I don't know, that's my little high horse about this. But that's kind of how I see this, like this. Yeah, this is kind of like he's using that like token, like nagging wife type of thing. But like I think he's challenging us in a whole bunch of things about control and like wanting, like you immediately went to parent-child, like we see it happen there a lot too. Um, let's see, I wanted Robert to see them in a different background when she starts making
She
fun of his.
isolated him from all his friends.
Yeah, she isolated him from all of his friends.
Can I ask a question? Coming in the middle?
Yeah, yeah.
Is the ghost context like the evil and the
So-
spirit?
So the ghosts are so all these ghosts are people that are from the gray town.
Okay,
And the gray town we end up finding out it's hell. And it's this town where this will sound weird, but everyone kind of gets what they want.
Oh.
And so they don't have to get along with anybody. And so they all just are able to build as fast as they want to, but they all live in isolation because they don't have to get along.
okay.
They all live in isolation. And we end up finding out as they come to the outskirts of heaven that they're almost like phantoms, that when they walk on the grass doesn't even bend underneath their feet. And it's almost like knives going into them. This one guy tries to pick a daisy and he can't even move it. And it's because
He's inconsequential.
yeah, like he's not. And what we've seen, really, they started fleshing this out in the last chapter we were in, but that they can begin walking towards the mountains is what they call it, which we would call heaven. And it's like you can start if you just throw aside, you're like, so this lady, we're gonna see where they start calling on her to throw aside her control here. But if they can just come and even just holding my hand or putting your weight on me, we'll walk towards the mountains. And as you walk towards it, you'll get more solid. And so these heavenly beings that they call spirits. So the ghosts are from the gray town, spirits are from the heavenly realms.
Okay,
And they're like friends from their past.
okay.
And so that's the spirits are the heavenly ones have come back to try to encourage them to walk with them back.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the, let's see here. And then he got a new job, a great step up. But what do you think? Instead of realizing that we are now had a chance to spread out a bit, all he said was, well, now for God's sake, let me have some peace. That nearly finished me. I nearly gave him up altogether, but I knew my duty. I have always done my duty, which I thought that's a line. I was specifically underlining that because that really seems to be a line that keeps coming up in this book. It's like, I know my duty. You know, I've done my work. I've done all the good stuff. You know, like, and it seems to be that these people are like, well, I've worked for everything I've had my whole life, and that, according to this book, is really what gets in the way a lot. And
I
that,
brought that up last week, all the eyes that were.
yeah, all the eyes and that one thing. And this one has a ton of eyes
It
too.
does have a lot of eyes.
Yeah, like she's like, I did this, I did that, I'm doing these things, doing those things. Like that's let's see. So she just continues going through, and on the next page I had what on earth is coming over you, I used to say. But now he just didn't answer at all. He would sit staring at me with his great big eyes. I came to hate men with dark eyes. And I know it now, just hating me, that was my reward. After all I had done, sheer wicked, senseless hatred. Like that's, I like, you could see it's almost like she can see the burden of what she's done. Yeah, so I grew to hate guys like that. But she still is like, well, I got to have this project. And that ends up being what she says. And what I thought was interesting too about this is the spirit, the heavenly beings, their friends from life before, doesn't talk much in this chapter. Like it kind of gets her going and she just goes and just like all that. Let's see.
Was that his mother on this chapter?
It's
That's great.
the next one is the mother. And that one's wild. Because the next one's a long chapter and it has the guy with the dragon.
Lizard.
Wasn't this woman Hilda?
Is it the same woman?
I think so.
No, it's two different.
Is it two
Because
different?
one has to do with the child and the other one has, I think. I don't know.
Let's look at the sheets. Overbearing wife ghost. Oh, and then there's a motherly ghost. It says here.
Is that a cheat sheet?
Yeah, it's the cheat sheet. It's all the different ghosts. Here, I'll hand you one of these. Here, here. You can look at that. I mean, it's not gonna. The book is so odd, and it sets it up in such a subtle way.
I did find, well, I didn't find it, my sister-in-law who got bookshelves lining her walls. Anyway, there's a website called Lit Chart,
Okay.
and it does a whole thing. It summarizes the chapters and then it analyzes it.
Oh yeah.
And it was actually pretty good. I printed out a few of them, but the thing is, I had to copy and paste into Word because I didn't want to get a membership for $60. I mean, they obviously, you're allowed to do
That
that,
was the
but.
mother that, like, the son so well
Yeah.
spoken.
It's like a clip.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's so in this it's saying it's two different ones.
Yeah, it is.
But that's a fascinating one too, because we're kind of moving into this whole thing of what it means to love. And that's kind of a wild, because the next character we go into is it's not the mother, is it? It's the guy with the lizard.
No, it's the mother. and
Mother.
the
Oh,
lizard,
mother then the lizard.
I think.
So that's yeah.
Yeah.
So they
Right, that's screwed up on that.
well, hey, it's like two people right together, right? They let's see here. I had a couple things left here at the end of this chapter. Like, how could I help it if he did have a nervous breakdown in the end? My conscience is clear. I've done my duty by him, if ever a woman has. So you see why it would be impossible to do. That one. That one really reminds me, and again, a lot of this is church world for me. You guys can talk too, about other worlds, but when people really come up to others and go, well, I told them what they were doing wrong. I did my duty, and like that's good enough. And that concerns me. And I've been concerned about that for a while, because I used to feel that way. Like, it's like, oh, I'm just speaking the truth in love to them. And you come in like a wrecking ball, to quote Miley Cyrus, and just destroy them, and then you expect things to work out.
Yeah, but sometimes you're planting a seed and then
Mhm.
the seed doesn't come up. It's not you, it's the next
Yeah.
session that they make
Mm-hmm.
come back at a later time.
Yeah.
And they'll see what you were saying,
Yeah. And I think,
even though you have that attitude about it.
yeah.
Well, and this is also totally overboard. Like
Yeah.
with a lot of the things that we've studied in the circumstances, the beginning is not so bad. It's when it takes over total control of what you
Mhm.
do and say, and then it becomes so far off that you can't get back.
Yeah. And that's it. I understand the seed thing. Like I understand what you're saying with that and all those things. But I think it's almost like the seed thing is too, is like you're still talking to that person though in that loving way.
Yeah.
Like that's like I tell parents when parents are worried about what their kids are doing and all that stuff. It's like there's no problem with having limits on them when they're in the house and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, you gotta let them know that above all things, you're gonna love them. That's like you can't put ultimatums on your love for them.
It's hard to stand by
Mhm.
and watch people make mistakes
Yeah.
that you perceive
Oh yeah.
are their mistakes.
Yeah. And that's like, I don't know. I think I come from that because that's where really I used to be. 'Cause I remember just thinking nasty things about certain types of people, and then I started kind of hanging out with people like that, and I saw how God was moving in amongst those people too, and that really was an education to me because I was homeschooled, which means I was given the rights to be super prideful about my sect of Christianity, you know, like that's, and so I don't know that this one just affected me. Let's see what was the last couple paragraphs here, but I must have a free hand. Oh, like she starts wanting him again.
Yeah.
And she goes, but I need to have a free hand with him. I need nothing to slow me down now. Like that.
Another chance at it.
I want another chance at it. And that's,
She just admitted she caused him to have a
Right, so you
breakdown.
let him write his book.
Yeah.
and then she ends up like admitting what's going on. Yeah, it's like, I was only beginning. There's lots of things still to do with him. No, listen, Hilda, please. I'm so miserable. I must have someone to do things to. And just gives up the ghost. And that's like that like yeah, like that yeah, like she's got to want
Still
it.
didn't get it. She
So
didn't get it.
no, she doesn't get. And then
And she even says, don't consult him, just give him to me.
yeah.
Like,
No.
And it's under, and this is the second one that their story ends like that in the book. I think it's just the second one, but the last paragraph of that chapter is the ghost which had towered up like a dying candle flame snapped suddenly. A sour, dry smell lingered in the air, and for a moment, then there was no ghost to be seen. Like it's almost like she just vanished into her complete kind of unhumanness. Like C.S. Lewis is really playing with this idea of as you grow closer to the Creator, that you become more human, and which means becoming more physical, more all these things that you can make grass bend as you're walking on them, and things like that. It's very visual. It's very good. It's very good.
And so she went the opposite into nothingness almost.
Yeah.
The last sentence here and the synopsis says her self-image rests solely on the actions of others.
Yeah.
So she became nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll make it all about me there. Like it's easy to do. Like you get projects, with people, and it's like I start looking at my own salvation through how I'm doing with others. Can't do that. Like it'll drive you to madness. It'll drive you to madness, and but it's so easy to fall into that. All right, so this is the one, the motherly ghost, which the motherly ghost is, talk about helicopter mom. Let's see here. I'll just read the first couple paragraphs. One of the most painful meetings we witnessed was between a woman's ghost and a bright spirit who had apparently been her brother. They must have met only a moment before we ran across them, for the ghost was just saying in a tone of unconcealed disappointment, "Oh, Reginald, it's you, isn't it?" Unconcealed disappointment. "Oh, Reginald, it's you, isn't it?" Yeah. Yes, dear, said the spirit. I know you're expecting someone else. I hope you can be a little glad to see me for the present. I did think Michael would have come, said the ghost, and then almost fiercely, he is here, of course. He's here far up in the mountains. Why hasn't he come to meet me? Didn't he know? My dear, don't worry. It will all come right presently. It wouldn't have done, not yet. He wouldn't be able to see or hear you at present. You'd be totally invisible to Michael, but we'll soon build you up. I'm reading all this because this is very interesting. You'd be completely invisible to him. I should have thought that if you can see me, my own son could. It doesn't always happen like that. You see, I have specialized in this sort of work. Oh, it's work, isn't it? Boom, right into the boom. Oh, it's work, is it? going right into all of this. Let's see here. A couple paragraphs down. The longer paragraph. I'm afraid the first step is a hard one, said the Spirit. But after that, you'll go on like a house on fire. You will become solid enough for Michael to perceive you. Then you will learn to want someone else besides Michael. I don't say more than Michael, not as a beginning. That will come later. It's only a little germ of a desire for God that we need to start the process. That's they and she accuses the religion thing here in a second, but yeah, this is an interesting thing to me. It also reminds me of, I mean, there's a reason why you mix this woman up along with the other one too, because it's the same story but with different people, and that's.
And this may be a little more altruistic. She may really have,
Oh no, I think she does have love for her son
yeah.
that we'll see. But as this is saying, she only has love for her son.
Oh,
Right.
Like that's what we end up seeing with this.
Oh,
Like she can't do anything else. And that's one thing that, especially newlywed couples, where they'll just become just themselves, and one can just become enamored with the other one, and just everything kind of fade away around them, and that's kind of similar to what was going on last time, although that lady was looking at it more as a project. But that's like, and it just becomes suffocating, and those are those toxic relationships sometimes, and I think it's good that he noticed it's work, isn't it? Because you often see those in those toxic relationships where that's just twisting everything and all of that. So he says maybe you should want something other than Michael, your son. And she goes, it's a German desire for God that we need to start that process. And she goes, oh, you mean religion and all that sort of thing? Like, this is hardly the moment. Like, which is great. Which is great. Like, you mean religion, all that stuff? Like, this is hardly the moment. Like, it's like
we're talking heaven here. But
yeah. We're in the outskirts of heaven. Everything's weird. You can't walk on the grass.
Yeah.
Like that. That's over there, and just you could tell that she's just so in deep with it. Let's see.
Well, she wants to get on with it, because then it goes, the sooner I begin it, the sooner they'll let me see my boy, so I'm ready,
Oh.
it's like.
Yeah.
I'll go along.
I'll go along with you, just let's,
Yeah. Like, let's.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, no, all of these people, you see a little bit of yourself.
Yeah.
So I'll be the first one to admit.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I said this book holds a mirror up to you so well.
That's right.
It holds a mirror up so well, and I think that's why I love it, because it's so subtle about it, and you're just like, ooh, okay, there it is. Let's see here. But Pam, do think, this is right after what Carol just read. But Pam, do think, don't you see that you are beginning at all as gosh, I can't read. Not beginning. At all, as long as you are in that state of mind, you're treating God as only as a means to Michael. But the whole thickening treatment consists in learning to want God for his own sake. That, like, this book, reading this again, has like taken me down a whole another path again. And that figuring out, I don't know how to communicate it, so it'll sound ugly, but the idea of using God to get the things that we want, like, oh, I'm just going to church to get to the good place, or something like that. Like, just believe in it. What's the harm if you don't? Like
Yeah.
that's, and it's like, well, that's not the idea. And really, like, the idea of like, I'm doing all this to get the goods really isn't the idea either. And that's because we don't want anyone in our lives that's using us just to get what they want. You know, like that's, and so that's it. I don't have a good way of communicating it yet, but this C.S. Lewis does. Maybe I should just read this chapter to people. You mean if I were only a mother? Let's see, let me read that whole thing. So we're learning to want God for his own sake. You wouldn't talk like that if you were a mother. You mean if I were only a mother? Boom. Like that, like if I were only a mother.
That's how she defines herself in this.
That's
at this
all
point,
she is.
Is the mother of a child that died.
Yeah. That's all she is. And this got me thinking about when you see this usually makes me kind of sad, and I probably shouldn't talk about it, but I will. When you see someone that has a newer car, but they went and got a new memorial for like someone that died, and it's usually often like a child, and it says on the back of it like this person lived from here to here, you know, and I was like, man, that means like this is a pretty new car. That means the 12 years after it's happened, you felt the need to go and get this custom made again, or someone in your life. Again, we got this for, you know, Andrew or something like that, and that I don't know. Like I think that just it seems like that's I would understand it being on an old car, you know, they didn't take it off. Yeah, but
I
like
can understand how people feel that way.
yeah, like I
lost a
can
daughter.
get it. It's sad.
Anything that you just can brush aside,
Yeah,
it's always with you.
yeah,
You
yeah.
don't have to broadcast it to everyone, but
No, but it,
it's something that's
Mhm.
pretty hard to say you ever heal from.
Yeah, and I think that's why this chapter is good because it's
But you
It
can't-
brings up that
I have a
thing.
big family, you can't neglect the whole other part of the
Yeah.
family
right,
because of your loss.
which is
Yeah.
what this woman was
And that's
doing.
what she's doing. She's just
Mhm.
isolating on that one thing, and the rest of the people are not even in the
Yeah.
picture.
well, it almost like and Michael died as a child. Is that what we end up seeing?
In my mind, that's what happened.
It's what it kind
Yeah.
of seems like.
Yeah.
That it's almost like she grows. It like Michael becomes a thing that he probably never was. You know, like that's
Her vision of
Right.
Michael.
yeah.
They put them on a pedestal.
Yeah.
Put him on a pedestal and all that because that's yeah, and that's and I don't mean to mitigate like facing the grief of losing someone. Like that's not what I'm doing. It's just
Yeah.
it's just the idea of like just locked into that time.
Exactly.
You know, like that's where then that becomes your existence. And that's kind of what I worry about when I'm talking about those people with the things on the back. I'm worried that like their entire existence now exists around that date.
Yeah.
And that's I don't know. That's
Well, further on, doesn't she have another child, a daughter?
Yes,
that
which
she
the husband
really
and child are
couldn't
totally,
even,
yeah.
she didn't care.
no, the mother and the daughter and husband, they were just pushed aside, and she just, you know, dealt on Michael.
Yeah, yeah. Like
And it's
that's
like everything else in here, it's because it's become so lopsided, so
mhm.
engrossed in that, so stuck on the one thing and
Right.
left the
Never
rest
got
of the world
past
on.
it at all.
Yeah.
But he said that they live compartmentalized lives anyway, right?
Yeah, like well, everyone in the great town, they get whatever they want, and so they don't have to get along with anybody.
Yeah.
And so,
they
like-
focus on their own self-needs and
Yeah.
that little sphere that they
Yeah.
live in.
And so going to the mountains means like you got to rely on somebody, which is interesting that the angels are always, you can always lean on me. Which that's interesting, like they don't want to lean on anybody. Like this whole time. And that's hard. That's hard. Let's see. They start talking about kind of what love means. Let's see. Pam, no natural feelings are high or low, holy or unholy in themselves. They are all holy when God's hand is on the rein. They all go bad when they set up their own and make themselves into false gods. I thought that was kind of like these natural feelings of love or these things. There's really nothing wrong with them. But when they become those ultimate things, that they start getting in the way. And that's, I try to say that about a lot of things by trying. I'm emphasizing the try. But there's really nothing that's inherently just all bad, like all that stuff. But it's like when that becomes the end all be all. That's, and I think that's kind of what this book is saying. Let's see. Where should we go next here? I have a lot underlined. I really enjoyed this chapter. Let's see. Okay. Then she starts using the Guthrie boy and the Guthrie woman to start talking about it.
And they were people in Greytown, right?
They're the people in the Greytown. And like if I had Michael, I'd be perfectly happy even in that town. I wouldn't be always thinking about him till everyone hated the sound of his name, which is what Winifred Guthrie does about her brat.
No.
Like that's.
I found it hard to believe that she wasn't really talking about her Michael all the time too, even though he wasn't there in the Greytown with her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, she was always.
Yeah.
Always talking about it. That's and so that made me think of an interesting thing there, that how much the mother would have longed to have Michael in hell with her.
Yeah, that's sad.
Like I'd rather have you in hell
Right.
than to not have you, type of thing. And that's I don't know, that was, yeah. And so I have this underlined, like, what you have seen in the Guthries is what natural affection turns to in the end if it's not converted. Like, so that whole idea of like, that it's just bad. Pam, in your heart of hearts, you know what was a mistake. All that 10 years ritual of grief, keeping his room exactly as he had left it, keeping anniversaries, refusing to leave the house, though Dick and Meryl were both wretched there. Like that's, And again, this book is doing this whole thing where I think it's saying a lot more about hell and heaven on earth than it is anything beyond that. It's going to like you're making life hell. Like that's, let's say you're wrong. No man ever felt his son's death more than Dick. Not many girls love their brothers better than Meryl. It wasn't against Michael they revolted. It was against you, against having their whole life dominated by the tyranny of the past, and not really even Michael's past, but yours.
There's the big eye again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's so. Like. It makes this is another like strong example, but it makes me think of it is like the people where the time when they were clicking along the best was like when they were in high school or something like that. And you go and talk to them, like you see some old friends or something like that. And that's all they want to talk about. And I can't remember, someone said that to me once. And I make a conscious effort. like when I go back and see old friends, like we can talk and laugh about some stuff, but that's not. We're here to find out how's your family doing, what's funny going on around you today,
The present.
yeah, being in the present, and that's like that. There was, because it's like my college friends were hilarious, and it's so easy to go into old jokes and all that stuff. But is that? Yeah, that's you got to live where you are. That's a good way of putting it. Like put it in the
That's
present.
why they call it the good old days.
Yeah,
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 in your mind.
yeah. And that's something too that I've seen. So the way you shoot a good picture. So if you're gonna shoot a picture at Christmas or something like that, the way you shoot a good picture, like something that's interesting, is you shoot it so it looks better than it actually is. So you make it a little intriguing. You don't show the whole thing because like just pictures where everyone's standing up against the Christmas tree and all that stuff. That's a boring picture. Like you may look back at it and go, "Oh, look at all these people," but the thing is, you're connecting memories to all those people. When you show them to your friend Barb doesn't care. Barb doesn't care. But like if you have like an interesting picture of someone opening a gift or something like that, the whole idea behind a professional photographer is that he's shooting something that makes it look better than it actually is. And the reason why we do that, and the reason why we like those pictures like that, is because that's how we remember.
Well, that's why I like
Yeah.
when I take pictures of my grandchildren. My daughter-in-law likes to do the perfect picture and the perfect
Yeah.
pose and stuff. And I'm happier with the one where they're going.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And just because that's them,
Mhm.
that's
Right,
not
exactly.
Yeah.
the perfect one.
Yeah. Because it's so easy to remember things better than they actually were and go, man, things were so much better then. And we get caught, by, and I think that having their whole life dominated by the past, but not even the real past, it was just yours past. And that's, and like, man, like how many people have I brought tyranny on to serve my past type of thing? Like
does Pam have some sort of guilt associated with the death? I don't know the circumstances.
I don't know.
Never mentioned.
They never
that,
mentions
but
it. It's just you can't get by it though.
Yeah.
You can't get by it.
One of the comments in this analysis I have says that, Lewis tries to show then that this kind of love isn't true love at all, but just another kind of selfishness.
Yeah. Yeah.
That fit pretty well.
Yeah. She after he says it was your past, she goes, "You're heartless. Everyone is heartless. The past was all I had." When she says it right there, it was all you chose to have, is what he responds back to her. It was the wrong way to deal with sorrow. It was Egyptian, like embalming a dead body. And then goes into like the selfish behavior. "Oh, of course I'm wrong. Everything I say or do is wrong according to you. But of course, said the Spirit, shining with love and mirth, so that his eyes were dazzled." That's what we all find when we reach the country. We've all been wrong. That's the great joke. Like that's, and I love that,
Yeah.
because it's like, I don't know, I think there's a sense in people that when they die, they'll go, "I was right." like that. I love that. And like this book seems to be saying like, no, the joke is that you were wrong about all of this stuff. But it's okay. Because you're able to give up your rightness.
Right.
Like that's you're able to give it up. Let's see here. So then he starts talking about the nature and all that stuff. He says, "You sometimes forget that you didn't intend to have a baby at all. Michael was originally an accident." "Who told you that?" said the ghost, and then recovering herself, "It's a lie. It's not true. It's no business of yours. I hate your religion. I hate and despise your God. I believe in a God of love. And yet, Pam, you have no love at this moment for your own mother or for me. That's yeah, like suddenly she used God as an excuse for her hatred there, and that he was kind of getting under her skin. Let's see. But yeah, no room for, yeah, let's see. So we'll go a bit further. So the teacher laying down on my arm. So that was kind of the end of that story there. Let's see. How much of this? This guy's this guy's good too. This is a long chapter. It's 11:52. Did you need?
I'm gonna scoot. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you can just reach out to me.
I will.
All right. All right. It's good. It's good. Thank you for coming.
Oh, I'm so glad.
I'm glad to be able to see you.
I know, I've changed a little bit, but
I'm glad you're back.
Yeah. And you're welcome to anything. All that stuff. We're here for you.
I know, I appreciate the prayers and the
Yeah.
weekly circulars, so.
Yeah. Good deal. Good deal. Well, you just reach out to me if we can talk or anything. All right.
I will.
All right. Good deal. Good deal. It's good to see you.
Bye.
You guys want to try to get through this little section here? And
What's in?
it's the oily ghost and the lizard.
That turns into the horse.
Yeah, that turns into a horse. Because there's some fascinating things in that, and technically we only have 7 minutes left.
Yeah,
We can kind of get through it, and then we can stop whenever we want. We'll just hit it again next week,
okay.
so we can start talking about it. We'll do that.
One of the things, okay, so we're in finishing for that one woman.
Yeah.
Basically, one of the things they said here is basically that loving God above all else is the only way to love other people fully.
Oh, yeah,
I thought it was pretty good way.
yeah. Like living, because I think that says, at least what that says to me, is that you're able to love. You're able to realize that you're loved. Like that's what that says to me. You're loved completely, like because God is loving you, and then the love of other people becomes like a well coming out of you, and so.
And real love.
This is gonna be starting next week then?
Yeah, next week.
Including the Bible study here, right?
No, that's a couple weeks away from.
This is,
from
so
Bible
you're
study.
still in the
Yeah,
Great Divorce thing?
yeah.
Okay.
If she would like, I have a copy of the Great Divorce on my table, on my desk.
This is gonna be.
So yeah, no, that's really good. That's really good. This one about the lizard is fascinating.
Yeah.
Like and just the whole idea of, so we've been talking about love, and we saw the love of a spouse, and that love is called control, and then I think that last one with the mother, that love is really called, is called not control, but I think present, future, and fast, like you're everything type of thing. And then this one, this lust is this type of love is almost like uncontrollable self, almost type of idea. I don't know. We'll have to get through it.
And at the end of this woman's though,
Yeah.
doesn't it also, the
Oh,
spirit takes him away and says it could be a very long conversation
yeah,
with those two. And doesn't he question whether she will,
Yeah.
hold on. Is there something? Okay, that's where it's marked.
want me to read the end of it?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. That's the trouble. Is it really original? The idea of your being hurt because, Lord, I love you, said the Spirit with a great laugh. You needn't bother about all that. Don't you know that you can't hurt anyone in this country? The ghost was silent and open-mouthed for a moment, more wilted, I thought, by this reassurance than by anything else that had been said. Come, we'll go a bit farther, my teacher, laying his hand on my arm. That's an interesting, like, did I read enough of it?
Yeah, no, this was after that, because then he's saying, goes on, it says, I doubt if he knew clearly what he meant. Okay, we were talking about Keats. Okay, yeah, Keats was wrong then. It's a page or two after that. It's it's a page or two before you get to the lizard.
Oh, okay.
When he said Keats was wrong then when he said he was certain of the holiness of the heart's affections.
Ah,
I doubt if he knew clearly what he meant, but you and I must be clear there is but one good, that is God. Everything else is good when it looks to him and bad when it turns from him.
yeah,
The higher and mightier it is in the natural order, the more demonic it will be if it rebels.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, okay.
No, you're fine. You're
But
fine.
it was one where I thought it was one where he was having the conversation, will she be able to change or not? And this one didn't. It was somebody else. Never mind.
They all start kind of running together.
Yeah.
They all start running together. The yeah, it's but yeah, that just goes back to that God conversation about the God, like that the Spirit of God kind of filling and going out from us is great. But I do like how the ghost was silent and open mouthed for a moment, more wilted. I thought by this reassurance and anything else that she couldn't hurt anyone. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
And that may be dealing with like a fear of hers, of hurting someone again. So she's just focusing on Michael. I don't know. Why'd you bring me this way, sir? I said, this is kind of the beginning of the next section. Why'd you bring me this way, sir? I said, when I had passed out of earshot of this unhappy ghost. It might take a long while, that conversation, said my teacher, and ye have heard enough to see what the choice is. Is there any hope for her, sir? Aye, there is some. What she calls her love for her son has turned into a poor, prickly, astringent sort of thing. But there's still a wee spark of something that's not just herself in it, that might blow into a flame.
That's what I was
That's
saying.
yeah. Then some natural feelings are really better than others. I mean, are a better starting point for the real thing, better and worse. There's something in natural affection which will lead it to eternal love more easily than natural appetite could lead on. But there's also something in it which makes it easier to stop at a natural level and mistake it for heavenly. Brass is often mistaken for gold more easily than clay is. And if it is finally refuses conversion, its corruption will be worse than the corruption of what you call its lower passions. It's a stronger angel, and therefore when it falls, a fiercer devil.
Right, that's what I was.
There, yeah, that's good. Does this keep on going? I think it does. Like that's fascinating. Like just the idea of those, like there are like these bigger emotions inside of us, and they can become like a stronger angel or a fiercer devil. Like that's good. That's good. That's good language.
Yeah.
That's good language. That's one of those things that's like, ooh, I can get too deep on this. I can get too
Yeah.
deep on this. Yeah. Let's see. A couple of paragraphs down. But one dare could I have the face to go to a bereaved mother in her misery, when one's not bereaved oneself. No, son, it's no office of yours. You're not a good enough man for that. When your own heart's been broken, it will be time for you to think of talking. I underline that. When your heart's been broken. But someone must say in general what's been unsaid among you this many year, that love as mortals understand the word isn't enough. Every natural love will rise again and live forever in this country, but none will rise again until it has been buried. None will rise again until it's been buried.
So is that saying,
He's talking about the cross here, like constantly, without ever saying it.
okay, so,
Well, here's how I hear it. Here's how I hear it. Is the biggest thing, one of the biggest things I've seen since being a pastor is that someone who has faced the disaster already in their life can speak truth and love to someone who's in the midst of it better than someone that's out of it. You know? Like that's one thing that I've seen.
looks like you with the child,
Right.
Yeah.
you know?
If you can experience something, it makes a big
Right.
difference. You just
Mhm.
talk about
Because you've
it.
been through it.
You've been there.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why if I haven't experienced a hardship with someone, like I don't try to explain it away. I don't try to mitigate it. It's always, that sucks, I'm sorry. Like that's, and just try to listen.
And
And that's always my strategy on these things. Cause that's, a lot of times that's what people need to hear.
Put you in a difficult position sometimes.
Mm-hmm. And that's, yeah, because that you can't just say get over it or something like that. Like that's, yeah. Because that's not helpful. Did you want to say anything? Oh yeah, there's the Keats was wrong. I just got a couple of, where's the Keats was wrong. I have underneath that Keats was wrong, I have that whole paragraph underlined. I doubt if he knew clearly what it meant, but you and I must be clear. He's talking about that what's Keats one? But there is one good, and that is God. Everything else is good when it looks to him and bad when it turns from him. And higher and mightier than the natural order, the more demonic it will be if it rebels. It's not out of bad mice or bad fleas that you make demons, but out of bad archangels. The false religion of lust is baser than the false religion of mother love or patriotism or art, but lust is less likely to be made into a religion. Like that's, ooh, that's good.
It is.
Ooh, that's good. Like that, like, I mean, look at, and you gotta remember where this guy is. He's in pre-World War II, England, you know? Like he sees what's going across the straits. He sees what's probably going on in England at that moment too. And like, and you know, everyone just is getting, to quote someone's sermon, I don't know who's, zealous for stuff. Man, that's, when we did that Acts sermon series a couple of years ago, that's the biggest thing that I learned. I was like, this book is about zealousy. Like that's what this is about. Like the church coming on to becoming its own and going out into the world. And here's this book talking about that. And it's going, but be careful. I was like, ooh. I had never, I mean, that really caused me to, I should step back a little bit and not look at my own righteousness as like,
They can't be too judgmental.
yeah, can't be too judgmental, can't be too like over there. And then you look at that and he's like, the false religion of lust is a baser than the false religion of mother love or patriotism or art. Like you see what he's going back in these people, like these loves, but lust, and we see that the guy's able to overcome that lust.
It's coming, that's what's coming.
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
Yes.
It's you're probably not going to make a religion out of lust.
Right.
Ah, fascinating, fascinating. And so then we start talking about the lizard, and that's actually probably a pretty good stopping point.
Yeah.
There, and we start. So we'll pick up at that same quote again because that's such a. make a false, because it's so easy to make a false religion out of those other things. You know, it's easy to make a religion of patriotism. It's easy to make a religion of family values. It's easy to make a religion of this is how you better yourself.
Well, because those are
You know?
acceptable things.
Yeah,
Those are good
those are good things. Those are good things, and like and those are things that everyone wants. And like, and he also mentions the art. You know, that kind of, because art really is the pursuit of seeing the world and seeing yourself, and like, and that's a good thing, and that can become too far. But I don't know. I appreciate you guys coming today and sharing this book with me. I mean, I've already said it a bunch, but it's one of those books that is really like, it's been good going through it again, and all that. And I appreciate you guys saying everything that you are. And we'll see how this turns out in my recording today. So I'll say a prayer for us to end with. Jesus, we thank you that you've saved us. Lord, help us not to make the good things in our lives into their own little religions, but help us to see them through your lens of the cross and resurrection, that we may continue to serve you and make those things glorifying of your glory in the creation. Thank you, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
But thanks so much for coming.
Thank you.